Hello. If you're watching this video, you're working on the Muscle Lab, Lab 8, Part B. This is going to be on the back of your muscle list that we used in our last class when we were doing the Lab Part 1. Now we're doing the Lab Part 2. So we're just going to be looking at the muscles of the leg. These are the back part of the muscles, and so I thought I would break this into regions for you to help you to organize this a little better. So first we're going to look at the muscles of the gluteal region. So again, the gluteus is basically our butt region, our backside region, and there's two muscles you're going to need to know there. We're going all the way down to the bottom of the leg, and the first one we're going to do is the gluteus maximus. This is another muscle that is named for its size, maximus, because it's a pretty large muscle. This is our large butt muscle. You can see on our cadaver image here, turned sideways. Notice all the muscle fibers or fascicles, of course wrapped in those perimysium, are going in that sort of oblique kind of direction. This muscle is an antagonist muscle because it is going to be able to extend the femur and the torso. Not flex it, but extend it. So if we're talking about flexing it, it is the antagonist. If we're talking about extending it, it is the prime mover. And so that's a great picture. So hopefully you take a look at that and jot down your information there about the gluteus maximus. The next one you need to know just below the gluteus maximus is the gluteus medius. The gluteus medius is again named because of its size. It's much smaller than the gluteus maximus, but you also need to know this one. It's a little deeper than the gluteus maximus, so the gluteus maximus generally covers it up. It is responsible for abducting the femur at the hip joint. So if you take a second and stand up, and yes, you're going to want to stand up at this time, whether you're home or you're in school or wherever you are, and just abduct the femur at the hip joint. Push that off to the side to spread your feet like you're straddling and going to stretch, and that is, you're then using that gluteus maximus. A lot of us forget to do that. We forget to do lateral side-to-side workouts when we're doing things, and so our gluteus maximus gets very strong and very big, and we forget to work a smaller muscle like our gluteus medius. And so it's super important to make sure you're doing those lateral side-to-side movements when you're working out as well. All right, this is one of my most favorite muscles. This is the tensor fascia latae. Now, if you hear that word and you think of Starbucks, yes, that is perfect because that's just what I think of. This muscle's right on the side of your hip. So notice this cadaver picture. This is an anterior picture, and you can see the tensor fascia latae right up there at the top. It combines with the gluteus maximus and a lot of fascia, dense connective tissue, and it allows us to move our thigh. It is located on the lateral surface of the thigh, and so oftentimes I think about it, and I think if I drink too many lattes from Starbucks, I think that I'm going to gain weight right there where my tensor fascia latae is. Now, an important thing that you should be aware for that tensor fascia latae, and I'm sure that you've heard of this IT band before. So this muscle connects to the ilium and it forms the top part of the IT band that goes all the way to the tibia. So oftentimes you hear people talking about their IT band being tight. So stretching this tensor fascia latae is super important to loosening up that IT band. So oftentimes in strength class, you might even roll your IT band. If we had some extra rollers here, I would have you take a moment and do that. If you want to stop the video and somebody show us how you roll your IT band, that would be great. And so this tensor fascia latae forms the top part of the IT band. All right, let's take a look at some muscles that move of the thigh, that move the femur, the tibia, and the fibula. So the first one I thought we would take a look at here is gracilis. Gracilis is the only hip adductor that you need to know. So this is a muscle that brings the legs back in. So if you were to stand up and do that straddle stretch and then move your hip at the top of your femur at that ball and socket to bring the feet back together, you are adducting the hip or adducting the thigh, and gracilis is one of those groin muscles that is doing that. So let me show you where that is. You can see it. It's the only one you need to know. There's like 4 or 5 of them there. That we talk about that are thigh adductors, bringing the thighs back together. So generally, either the gracilis or one of the other adductors is what gets pulled if somebody has a groin pull. And you've probably heard of that before. That happens for lots of sprinters. If you're trying to kick an object that's not moving well, you may also get a groin pull. So pull in that groin. So I hope that helps you with those. You will want to find gracilis on the poster in the back or the leg. All right, let's move on to the hamstrings group. So we're looking in this posterior compartment of the leg. We're looking at the hamstrings. Now, for the hamstrings, there's 3 muscles, of course, you can see them there, that you are going to need to know. Yes, you're going to need to know the biceps femoris, the semitendinosus, and the semimembranosus. So those are the 3 hamstring group muscles that you're going to need to know. Now, it's interesting because why are these called the hamstrings? Well, it's because these muscles are kind of long and stringy, and that's how they became known as the hamstring group. So let's take a look at bicep femoris. This is the first one you're going to need to know. It's named because of its location. It is by the femur, and I always remember that it's in the back because I use bicep and I'm thinking, oh, okay, so it's in the back. It's not like the bicep brachii in the arm, which is on the anterior side when we're looking in anatomical position. And so here's a sideways picture so that you can see the bicep femoris. It's labeled C right here. It is the large muscle of the hamstring. Kind of operates on its own. It's a little more lateral than the other 2 muscles of the hamstring. And so that is your bicep femoris. It flexes your knee joint and extends the thigh. So it has 2 different actions that it can do. The next one is semitendinosus. Now, when I think of semitendinosus, I think on top. And so the semitendinosus is the other part, the more medial part of the hamstrings group, and it is on top. As you can see right here, it is labeled B. Underneath of that is the semimembranosus. And you can see that membranosus underneath here is a little bit more membranous, has a little bit more connective tissue covering the muscle. Now, that connective tissue covering that we're looking at there is the epimysium, which can merge into form tendons, rope-like tendons or sheet-like tendons called aponeuroses. And oftentimes when it's separating different muscles, we call it fascia. And so that's really the definition there of fascia. So as we're moving along, the next one is the semimembranosus. Now, again, you don't have a great picture of it here. It could be labeled A there or A up above. It's the muscle that's deep to the semitendinosus. It is part of the hamstrings group. And you can see there's clearly a lot of fascia on it. So, you can clearly see the tendons and you can see it forming it into that rope-like tendon. All right, so that's it for the posterior compartment of the thigh. And next we're going to move to the anterior compartment, the quadriceps group. The quadriceps, just like the name implies, does have 4 muscles. However, you only need to know 3 of them. I know that our athletic healthcare people probably know them all, but for Deltec's list, if you're taking a look at the list, you only need to know 3 of them. And we are, by the way, back up closer to the top of the list there. We're kind of jumping around all over on that back of your muscle list where it says leg. And the quadriceps, again, is in the anterior compartment, so it's on the front of the thigh. It's going to extend the knee. So right now, while you're sitting at your desk or sitting wherever you're sitting, if you're at home on your bed, if you go ahead and extend that knee, you should be able to feel the hamstring muscles contract. And here are the 3 muscles that you're going to need to know from that quadriceps group. Rectus femoris, you probably already know this one. This is one of our muscles that helps to remind us how muscles are named because the fibers go in that straight line or erect to that long axis of the body. It is also by the femur. So let me go ahead and show you that muscle from this cadaver picture, and you can see it's switched over here to the side. This is the large muscle right down the middle of the thigh. It also does merge right into that patellar tendon. So oftentimes stretching that will help with that patellar tendon as well. Now the 2 muscles on each side of it, you can see here, right? Those are the 2 vastus muscles. They're also named for their size because they're very large muscles. And there they are. Hopefully you can see them right there. The one out towards the outside, if you flex that thigh and run your hand right along the outside of your body, you should be able to feel that vastus lateralis. That's what it's called, vastus lateralis, because it's over towards the side. It's a very large muscle. And you should not only be able to see it, but feel it right there. And you can see I have it labeled A right here. And so a lot of times at the gym, we do work out those quadricep muscles. The next one of the quadriceps that you need to know is called vastus medialis. This is the one that a lot of weightlifters try to get looking good. If you move now, move your hand, flex your knee, and contract those quadriceps, and on the inside of your knee, sort of medial, you can feel that almost like teardrop, vastus medialis. And that teardrop appearance is what a lot of weightlifters are looking for as they're working out that muscle. All righty. And there is the picture of the vastus medialis. And you can see it right there. It has that sort of teardrop appearance. So if you do a lot of leg presses, extending the leg at the knee, you will work out those quadricep muscles. All right, the next one mysteriously is supposed to be named for a tailor. Sartorius. We often think of it as strappy sartorius because it is a very strappy muscle. It extends from the ilium, remember that bone there, and on the outside of the thigh, and crosses to the medial or inside part of the thigh and attaches to the tibia. This is the muscle that helps you to cross your legs. So the story goes that a tailor who used to sit and sew many things would sit there with his leg crossed and sew things, and so this muscle became known as sartorius. Now, on the leg model or the poster in the back of the room, there's 2 places that you are definitely going to want to find and see this muscle. Remember, I'm going to be available after school next week on Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. If you would like to come in on any day and take a look at the muscles. I can probably arrange to do it on Thursday if that works better for you, because I know Wednesday is the SATs and both days are asynchronous. I may still do Thursday synchronous, but I'm going to have to wait and see if I'm giving the PSATs still or not. All right. The next muscle, we're now going to move down to the lower part of our leg. This is a great muscle. This is tibialis anterior. Again, named for its location. It's right along the tibia, and it's on the front of your leg. If you're playing a spring sport, you may be very familiar with this muscle if you have shin splints. This is the muscle that causes shin splints. So you can easily feel this muscle if you simply feel the anterior part of your leg below your knee, and feel the crest of the tibia. You'll remember that from doing the bones. And to the side, laterally, move your hand, and you should be able to feel this tibialis anterior. This is the muscle. The inflammation there is what causes shin splints. It can be from a stress fracture. It can be that this muscle just hasn't been worked and strengthened enough. And so it's causing pain right there that It's called shin splint syndrome. We often just refer to it as shin splints. For somebody who's not in great shape, that's running outside on an uneven ground with poor shoes on or on a hard surface, these are the things that sort of irritate that tibialis anterior muscle, and you really do need to work it out. You can avoid shin splints simply by working this muscle prior to the time you start running. The next muscle, we're now going to move to the back of the leg. This is our famous gastrocnemius. Gastro, because it has a very pronounced belly, as you're going to see. This is the muscle that allows us to do plantar flexion. So if you're going to point that toe and flex at that ankle joint, it's your gastrocnemius, often just called your gastroc, that allows you to do that. Again, if you flex your foot, you might also be able to see that very pronounced belly of the gastrocnemius. And so there is that muscle. Now, below or deep to the gastrocnemius is the next muscle you need to know, the soleus, right? This also helps with plantar flexion of the foot. It's, again, deep to the gastrocnemius, so you would have to move the gastroc, which would be over top of that. Both merge to form the calcaneal tendon, or also known as Achilles tendon. You can see right there. And your last muscle, which is actually two muscles. It's the iliacus and the psoas major, affectionately known as the iliopsoas. It's a deep muscle, and you can see this a little bit on the leg model. You can also see it on the poster in the back of the room, so I'm going to want to make sure that you take some time to take a look at that. And this is the iliopsoas, so it's the psoas muscle that you see in the picture here and the iliacus muscle, and together the two of those are known as the iliopsoas muscle. It is, again, like I said, a deep muscle, kind of hard to see. If you ever pull it, you will know it, or if you ever strain this muscle, you will definitely know it, because you will feel a pain like deep in your abdomen. You'll know that you've done something to it, even though you may not be able to palpate it and feel that muscle. So these are all the muscles that you're going to need to know for your lab. At this time, if you have time to look in the back, I would encourage you to do that, or you may simply start working on your last study question. Your lab summary, and making flashcards. So you'll take the rest of the time to make flashcards of these muscles as well. They can be electronic flashcards or paper flashcards. So good luck. We will be having our muscle practical before spring break.